All right.
Welcome to the Remarkable podcast. And I'm your host, Doug Ford, and I have Eric Cleary on the line with me. Eric, let the good people of Remarkable Nation know all about Eric in like 2 minutes.
Remarkable nation. I like that. It's got a nice ring
Yeah.
to it. So yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on. Excited to have a chat with you. Obviously, haven't seen you in a while, but it'll be good to connect and share some insight with some folks. So yeah, my name's Eric. I'm a realtor here in the Niagara region in Canada. I've been licensed since 2019, July. I co-founded a management company that manages around 1,000 units, residential, commercial, mixed-use buildings, and so on. And I do a lot of construction renovation work. I'm getting into development now, which has been exciting and a learning curve to say the least. And I mainly service investors. So I help them from sort of the acquisition to sort of stabilizing the asset. And I've done a few hundred conversions for some wonderful folks here in the Niagara region. That's a
Love it.
brief summary.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I was thinking about you today and that split of the work. It's mind-boggling to me. Uh, like when you think about your days or your weeks, what does that look like? Like I'm saying, like, do you approach it? Do you see 2 days a week are client service, 2 days a week are management, 2 days a week are construction? Like, how do you break that down in your brain?
Yeah, obviously, I've been able to delegate a decent portion of what I just sort of encompassed in what I do through hiring good people and whatnot. And um, as you know, being a real estate agent doesn't really allow you to structure your schedule in any sort of reliable, consistent manner. So I would definitely say that I review emails and I go over some return on investment quantitative analysis that I've put together. I've had my team put together. I would say I kind of knock that stuff out in the morning. I do a lot of client connections in the morning as well. And by like 11 till 5, if I'm not swamped, I'm out running around. So I'm meeting contractors, I'm meeting developers, showing houses. So I would say, yeah, the morning is would be that sort of client connection part of the day, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
Oversee some of my admin related tasks, but every day is slightly different. And as much as when I tell people all the different things I do, it sounds crazy. And some days I look in the mirror and I think it's crazy as well. Um, the fact that I'm having different conversations and doing different things throughout the day, I think keeps me engaged. It doesn't ever feel repetitive, if that makes sense. So, something that could otherwise seem overwhelming. Obviously, it's all real estate related. Aside from my little crypto and stock stuff that I was telling you, I'd spend some time throughout the day. I obviously trade and play in the market as well. But you know, focusing on the real estate aspect of things, it's consistent. There's a lot of correlation, but obviously, there's different challenges every day, different clients, different client needs. You're speaking with an investor that owns one or two houses, and then I'm speaking with a guy that owns $100 million in real estate. Obviously, those conversations are vastly different. I'm dealing with, my staff, let's say with the management company, looking at some tenant needs where we can become more efficient. And then I'm dealing with the real estate buyer. So I think it's nice to change the pace, but not change the pace in a way where like I used to be dealing with like a tenant calling me because their toilet broke, and then I would have to go focus on real estate. Like I've delegated a lot of those tasks off to other people and departments. So I'm dealing with I guess similar aspects of the real estate investing, construction related end of things. So there's a lot of correlation and consistency there, but it's still different and unique enough where it's exciting, I guess, is one way to put it.
Yeah, that's great. That helps me at least picture how you structure your time and your thinking. So part of the idea that behind this podcast is that imagine somebody's a brand new realtor. Let's say they did those two deals, one for their aunt who and one for their college roommate, both of whom were like going to buy a house anyway, and they waited until you got your license, and
Yeah.
then 6 months in, it's like we're sitting at a desk saying, what do we do? So I think you're probably different than a lot of the people I talk to, a lot of realtors, because a lot of realtors start with client real estate business, and that's the bulk of their real estate activity. And then
Yep.
they start to add in other things. I
Sure.
think you went the other direction. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
I mean, I dove into the investment thing right off the hop.
great. So that changes obviously how you would plan your time. But what do you think um, is something that you can say you've learned really clearly by adding in the commission sales client service end of things?
So you're talking about the transition from being like a pure entrepreneur, building a business, and then branching off as a realtor. Is that sort of what you're?
Exactly. Yeah. Like,
Yeah, it was to
where does that
supplement.
realtor component come into the equation?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I sort of morphed into a position where people were so content and happy with our management services, the way that we viewed real estate investing, from treating it like a business, no different than any other business in any other market, where you develop systems and processes and accountability and whatnot. I started to rely too heavily on too many pieces, right? Like I needed somebody else to help me find the real estate deal because I'd actually have clients that hired us for management that want to lean on our expertise in a certain market, being let's say St. Catharines, for instance.
Yep.
And I'd have to rely on I would they would send me a property that maybe they didn't get from a realtor that they found on their own, and I would break it down, and then we'd have to find an agent, or Brian would do the deal. And it just I needed to have my license to be able to take an investment from start to finish. Like it was a
Sure.
piece of the puzzle where I didn't want to have to rely on any outside force, and I needed to legally have my license to go into homes and make sure that they were as good as they appeared online, verify
Hmm.
the neighborhoods and so on. So, and that leans into why I do construction, right? Like when you present an ROI, which is a return on investment to a client, I needed to have a little bit more control, and having my real estate license to not only, help with the acquisition, but to, make the investment come to life. There was certain things I've had to learn over the years where I needed a little bit more visibility, and getting my license and getting involved in the actual permit process with the architects and bringing in my trades that I had a trust and relationship with, were all big pieces to being able to honor what I told these investors was going to happen. Because if you present analytics to a client and yet you have to rely on 15 other people to bring it to life, it becomes a lot more challenging than trying to develop the skills or at least bring the people more in house to do it yourself.
It makes a lot of sense. I can see how you would. Well, something I think I've observed about you is that you are very much service oriented, and you are a full service kind of guy. So every interaction, you tend to be 100% present in that moment, and I can see why you would want the real estate acquisition, the market on market transaction component as part of your business. So in that scenario, have you had the opportunity to um, mentor any new agents?
Yeah, so I've got Rob, who's been with me for 7 years. He's been one of my leasing agents at Orange List, so he's actually come in with his license and had a lot of really good perspective that is required, I think, to understand a real estate investor's pain points and what they're ultimately looking for, and how to sort of mitigate that negative exposure that some real estate investors find themselves in. And it's been cool to help him walk through the construction end of things, what houses work, what don't work, um, things to. And you made a point earlier, and I'll go back to it quickly as I continue to go on this path and answer your question. Um, Sorry, how was I going to say this here? Um, I lost my train of thought on it, which is
Well, I think you were relating it to Rob's, bringing him in and showing him the construction end of things, and then how did that tie back to the full service and being
yeah.
present?
I had a point. You made a point earlier, and I lost it. So, anyways, but
Go
yeah,
ahead.
with Rob, and again, it's um, watching somebody else who has a passion for real estate investing, who has the perspective that a lot of real estate agents don't have. He's dealt with the tenants, he's dealt with the maintenance requests, um, he's seen what sort of houses built in certain years might pose different challenges. So these are all things we can prepare the investor for because we have the insight and the experience. Like the management company with thousands of units has given us so much clarity on what works and what doesn't work. So mentoring him, he's developed a lot of his own perspective on his own, obviously, through being in the business, just through slightly a different lens as a leasing agent, which made the transition into real estate, I think, a little bit easier, and obviously made me as a leader in this position. It's given me a good foundation to work off of to continue to help him grow and hone his skills and help him develop in a way where he can go service these investors at the level that I expect and I think that most people expect.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And I can just see that in your business that you guys invest in that relationship with your investors, right? So you're, very
Well,
much.
my point came back to me. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
It was
go.
you said definitely like I'm the kind of guy where like even if it's passed off to the mortgage broker or the lawyer, like I don't feel like it's like I'm on top of them. And it's not to discredit any of the people that I work with. Obviously I've spent years developing really awesome relationships and I can't do what I do without these people. So I don't want to degrade that point in any sort of negative way, but it doesn't, at the end of the day, I'm responsible, right? Like I'm the
Mhm.
person that me and the people around me, of course,
Sure.
to give this opportunity for people to want to invest. And I feel like as much as you can have a strong relationship, I think if you try to delegate too much or remove yourself from certain aspects, that's where your process can dwindle or the client experience could be affected negatively. And that's obviously not the case in every area, but I feel, and I've learned like you can work with amazing lawyers, architects, all of it. And if you're too removed or if you remove yourself from the communication between your client and that trade, something you said, not that you're being dishonest, could just be perceived by the client as inaccurate because they got a different context or a different even the verbiage was slightly different than what you used, and that might cause some volatility in the positive client experience. So, I try to get on the phone if I'm not going to be a part of a 45-minute call. I'll be on there for the first 10 minutes just to make sure the intro is understood and everyone's on the same page, and then I might check out. And then follow up with the client or stuff after. And I'm by no means perfect at this. Staying in touch and being a part of every step is very difficult, especially when you have 4,000 things going on every day. But I certainly try to manage the experience to a high degree.
That's I guess that's where we're getting at, and I can see that, and I appreciate that piece. So if I were to frame that as something we're trying to pass on, I see in here a nugget that, coming from Eric, that constant contact is such a huge piece of the puzzle, right? Like,
Yeah.
would you
Yeah.
would you
Whether there's
agree?
good, yeah. Whether there's stuff to discuss or not. Just a simple text once a week to say, hey, we're still waiting to hear nothing. That goes so like because people, we're humans. You're no different than me, man. If you're not getting anything, you start to let your mind wander. And it's usually not wandering in a positive way, right?
Yeah,
Because that's just not, and it's unfortunate. I'm a very optimistic, positive guy. I love life. I love my children. I love, challenging myself. I'm very positive, but I'm no different. I'm a human being. So when I'm left to try to figure things out on my own, sometimes my mind's not, it's not a rainbow and smiley face sort of thought. It's okay, something must be wrong. So,
sure.
I think just keeping people in the loop, and that's important for any real estate agent, or anybody overseeing anything for anybody, and no matter what business or what sector you're in, is just keep people in the loop. And it's rare that you're going to over communicate.
Yeah.
I've had a few clients. Usually, it's my higher net worth clients that are like, Eric, F off in the nicest way possible. Like, just let me know when you have something of substance. And then you
Yeah.
cater to that person. You're not messaging that person the same way you're messaging a first time home buyer or a new investor. It is different needs.
If that's good. Yeah, that's good. And understand those different clients is huge. Um, so when you think about the direction that your business is growing, perhaps you even want to talk about like a bit of bigger picture, like the market. How often do we talk about the market as realtors? But particularly when you're thinking about the market for real estate investing, where do you see it going? How do you go from where you're at now to a next level? What does that look like for you?
Well, I think an interesting thing, again, I don't understand your entire audience, and I know you're in a growth stage right now, but if you have any viewers here that don't own a home yet, or newer real estate agents that are trying to help people get into the market, I think something that I've noticed, and you could speak to this too, would be, you know, my parents' generation bought their house, right? And then my generation, I bought my house, but I, had a company, I was able to do so. I'm blessed in that way. But most of my friends got help from their parents for the down payment to buy a house. Now you're seeing a gift from the parents, and you're almost, required to have some sort of house hacking situation. So you get a down payment help from your parents, and then you can't afford the monthly. So now a basement suite or a garage suite not only helps you get approved for the deal through income qualification, through the rents, but it helps you live comfortably in a decent neighborhood on a monthly basis. So
Sure.
I think real estate investing is actually going to grow in terms of its awareness. It's already a popular thing in our world because we're in it. But if you still look at the actual quantitative, very little Canadians own more than one home.
Yeah. I
And the
believe
same,
the number's like 8% or something.
it's very low, yeah. And
Yeah.
then if you go on to like a second or a third property, now aside from like a vacation, a cottage, part of that figure includes people that bought a cottage or something. But people
Mm,
that actually own a second income property is it's like less than 5%. It's very low.
sure.
So now I think my point of bringing this up to you is I think we're going to create people that understand the income approach and how to help people get into a neighborhood they want to be through maybe renting out their basement or a detached garage. I think we're going to create real estate investors that otherwise might have never been real estate investors, right?
Mhm.
Because now you have people that have bought a house, maybe they have a basement apartment, they keep it for 3 4 years, they rent out their upstairs where they're living, they refinance, and then they go buy a single family home, or they repeat the process. They buy a second one. Now all of a sudden they own three properties where like none of their family, maybe even none of their friends are real estate investors, but that's what worked for them and their needs. And we've kind of created real estate investors. I'm not saying that hasn't happened in the past. It obviously
I
has,
know,
but
of
I
course.
think we're going to see it happen on a larger scale now because for people to have home ownership, they're relying on another source of income from that property, and it's becoming more and more um, prevalent and important, right? I mean,
Mhm.
look at the way incomes have grown over the last 20 years versus how real estate's grown. There's no
Yeah.
correlation to those figures at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting piece of information and insight there. The idea of actually being on the lookout for the potential to take what maybe in the previous generation or past years would have been seen as a single family property and
Yep.
actually have the vision of how that can become a rental property and then take a potential buyer who maybe would have been a single family home
Yep.
buyer and teach them how to be also an investor at the same time.
Yeah, right. You can turn that need for housing, right? We all have this inherent need for
Sure.
housing for ourselves, for our children, for for a place to call home. So I think if people are finding, and there is obviously there's more restrictions in the market today than there were 10, 15 years ago. So
Mhm.
I think this more modernized way of thinking and looking at real estate through this house hacking approach is going to create a lot more real estate investors because I think you would agree with me and you'd be confident to tell your audience there's no perfect time to buy real estate, right? The best time is
No,
when you
absolutely.
can. And if you get lucky and you buy, I mean, that's all it is. It's luck. You're not
Yeah.
buying at a low and selling at a high. If it happens once or twice throughout your 30, 40, 50 years or plus, then you got lucky. I say that with confidence. So
Yeah.
I think getting into the market and the nice part about this house hacking approach, and then now like in St. Catharines, there's grants and there's some federal funding to help people get in. Um, it gives you options instead of having to be in maybe a C minus neighborhood. they can actually go up to a B plus neighborhood, but it requires them to create a source of income through another unit. So you get to be in the neighborhood you want to be in. Um, and obviously, some people will have bad experiences if they don't know how to rent to tenants and how to vet people properly. And it might turn some people off, obviously, but I think if people are willing to learn and hire the people that have the experience, I think it could be a very positive experience. And turn somebody that might have never used real estate as one of their main assets to invest in could very well become that.
That's a great piece to the skill set that you bring to the table when you're dealing with clients, right? So if you happen to be dealing with a single family home buyer, you're also an expert in real estate investing. So you have a lot to offer.
Mhm.
And would you agree that for a new realtor, because I think a lot of my audience are new realtors or people that are realtors and they're looking to make a shift in how they want to level up. Do you think adding more of an understanding about what it's like to be a real estate investor is a
100%.
valuable?
100%. You don't have to brand yourself like I've done, right? Like I'm an investment. The top five agents in our region call me and I'm close with and ask me these investment related questions and they lean on me. So I've carved out that niche and that's who I am. It's actually hurt me to sell regular real estate because I've had my own friends sometimes like, man, I forget you're an agent. I just think of like income and tenants and investing when looking at you. So,
Yeah.
I'm now sort of branding myself as somebody that can just help you find a home, have nothing to do with rents and construction and all this other stuff that surrounds my brand. But for a new agent, I think you should understand your municipality, your laws. You should understand whatever jurisdiction oversees tenants. Like you should have some understanding of how that works. Maybe you want to partner with a really good management company. That's another tool in your belt that you can refer to your clients if you don't have the means to find tenants and manage and do that stuff. So partnering with other professionals can help bring value to your brand and obviously a better experience to your customers. And I think it gives you some options because you're going to run into people that want to buy a house that can't. And if you don't understand that there's maybe another option for them, then you might miss out on a sale. You might hurt your clients. They might sit back and wait 2 years to buy a house when they're finally ready, where they could have bought, now, but you just didn't give them that information. So I think as any realtor that wants to be successful wants to know as much as they can to service the people that they're dealing with. And I think you'd be doing a disservice not only to yourself and to your clients, but to your clients if you don't understand how to potentially help them generate some other income and what that would look like.
Yeah, that's great. So I do want to wrap up in the next couple of minutes here, Eric. I don't want to take a lot of your time, and I'm very thankful for the time you've already given us and the amount of insight you have and that you're willing to share. So quickly, like any pieces of content you think people should go looking for, books that you've read, where's a place you would go to educate yourself and that you think other people would benefit from?
Yeah, I mean, obviously being a realtor is you're an entrepreneur, right? Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
correlation. You're building a business. So one of my favorite books is The Reluctant Entrepreneur by Michael Masterson. I believe it's 8 chapters. It's phenomenal. It'll really help speak to even some of the things I've mentioned with partnering with other professionals and delegating and whatnot. So being in control, but not being everywhere and doing everything.
Yeah.
And that's a great read. Obviously, I talk a lot about real estate investing on one of my Instagram pages. It's at Investment Realtors. People can
Great.
certainly follow that account. They can interact with me if they have questions. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good, social media is obviously so powerful these days.
Certainly.
Find some people, whether it's local or at the state level or provincial level here and municipal level that are doing some of this stuff because the chances are somebody else is probably already doing it. And if they
Mhm.
have social media branches and vehicles that they utilize, pay attention. I get a lot of information from TikTok. My TikTok algorithm isn't
Yeah.
isn't dancing. I get some of that, of course, but I get a lot of my stock information and crypto information and some of my politics, a lot of real estate investors. And I'm not following just someone I've never seen before. Sometimes that happens, but I'm following agents in Toronto, in Edmonton, Calgary that are doing this at a very high level. And it's cool to see, and it makes you feel better because sometimes if you're not active, I'm very active in the community. So I'm talking to people every
Yep.
day, but if you're a new agent, you don't have those connections yet. So when you start to hear other people that are in your industry talk about some of their wins, but they're also talking anybody that's truly genuine is going to talk about their struggles. And it might help you understand that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Anyone that works with investors right now is doing less than they were 2 years ago, right? So it helps to. It's this weird thing about humans where knowing that other people are struggling makes us feel better. It's not we don't wish bad upon other people, but knowing that, you know what I mean, like knowing
Yeah,
that
totally.
somebody's doing worse. And it's really weird and awkward to say because it's like I don't wish anything bad on anybody, but whatever you're experiencing in a positive or negative way, there's others that are experiencing either more negative or more positive. So you can get some insight. Maybe they'll drop some tips on what they're doing to try to create more business or help their people based on rates changing, based on laws changing, whatever it may be. So I think finding a good, reliable chat group that's active in whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, whether it's investing, whether it's luxury, so on. It's good to communicate with other people in your industry and to bounce ideas off and build relationships for referrals and so on.
That's fantastic. I think the old saying goes, misery loves company.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
It's such
basically why I started this podcast, so that as realtors we could all get together and
Yeah,
talk about our thoughts.
absolutely, man. And it's cool what you're doing. And again, thanks for having me on. And hopefully there's some value here that I provided that some people can use and or at least give them something to think about.
I appreciate it. I'm going to link to that Instagram for you and make that connection so that people can look you up, because I know you're pretty open to connecting with people at all different
Absolutely.
levels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric.
Anything real estate, I'm happy to talk about.
Perfect.
All right, man. Thanks so much.
Take care.